We check in alongside our media partners at Media Play News. Thanks to them for their support and help. And today we have some conversations about, it feels like an odd subject, but not so much. One of the most dominant platforms in the universe, perhaps the most dominant platform in the universe, is getting more dominant. You want to talk a little bit about it, Daniel?
Yeah, a research company that focuses on the telecommunications with the wireless business specifically, among several sectors, Recon Analytics, through Light Reading, published a really interesting study. Over 104,000 U.S. consumers tracked over 5 quarters. You know, that's an exhaustive, that's a huge sample.
That's a gigantic sample. Yeah, there's not a lot of studies like that unless you're talking about like dating sites, when they've got, access to tens of millions of people.
They're talking about the U.S. market. Apple ended 2025 with 55.9% of the U.S. installed base of wireless phones. They control nearly 56% of it, up nearly 6%, 5.9% in a single year, while Samsung, the Android competitor, fell about 5% and has about 28% of the market at this point. And why I find that really astounding is, a year ago we were talking about, Tim Cook has, Trump problems, the tariffs are going to kill him, and his lead designer.
Let me just clarify. You were talking about that. I was going, I think they're going to be okay. He's going to use that upbringing
and not prone to hyperbole. Everybody knows that about me. Anywho, I may have overstepped. I feel bad about it.
I know, shocking, like beep, 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 beep.
Anyway, there was all sorts of gloom and doom. Also, they lost their lead designer to OpenAI. The era of the smartphone, we're going to go into glasses or something. Well, a year later, glasses are out, and the iPhone is still very much a thing. And this is 19 years
like double down thing, actually, really. I mean, what was it, 6% you said it's up? That's a lot, because it's taken some share from presumably also the very, very good phones that Google itself makes for Android, as well as Samsung, which has been the number 2 for a long time. Now, this is only the US, though. It's important to note that Android remains the market leader as a whole worldwide, but all the money, honey, is right here in the US of A. That's where all the money comes in on the app stores and the games and all that stuff. So this is interesting stuff to see. So do they have any attribution to what's drawing people in? Because the whiff was, you're not doing AI right. You screwed up AI. You're going to lose forever. You're dead in the water. Siri's an idiot. Et cetera, et cetera. And that they were trying to sell phones with like a smarter Siri. And now they're not trying to sell phones again yet, but maybe we've got Worldwide Developers Conference in about 2 months now, in early June. So probably they'll be selling smarter Siri and selling more phones again.
Well, they do address that, and according to Recon Analytics, this is their words, Apple's not winning on specs. The iPhone 17 has a smaller
but battery. It never has, right? So it never has. It's always been a little slower. Like Google's going to have some cool thing that it's doing with computational photography before Apple does it. Samsung comes out with foldable phones.
Right.
Apple still doesn't have a foldable phone out, really. So on and on and on.
Switching away from Apple means abandoning your digital life, the digital ecosystem that you've all the friends and the ability to, like, when you're on your computer to send chat messages, and you can't get those messages over Android. You have to go to your phone. There's all sorts of little ways that being part of that ecosystem becomes a little bit addictive. So,
but yeah, if you have more than one Apple device, it's certainly a better experience because they integrate them so nicely with all the back end. Like, here's all your stuff, here's all your things. It's the same over here and the same over here, and it works. It just works. It talks to each other. And they've done that for a long time. The company celebrated its 50th anniversary last week, which is hard to believe. And Apple's iPhone is celebrating its 19th, I think, birthday pretty soon. So they've been around for a while. I think the thing that's really easy to forget about in all this, because Wall Street has had a complicated relationship with Apple in the last year and a half because of exactly the same sorts of stories you're talking about. Oh, they're done. It's time to get a new CEO. The design guy leaving, it was actually surprising how many people were like, and don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. I mean, there were a lot of people in Apple that were not. It's like, oh, we suckered Zuckerberg on that one. I mean, it's kind of funny.
Outsiders like me saw that and thought he was billed as the top design guy. He was billed,
but he was always more of a marketing guy. He was definitely not Johnny Ive too. And now John Turnus, the senior hardware VP or EVP or whatever he is kind of like the heir apparent to Cook whenever Cook segues out here in his mid-60s. But I think it's really important. They've never won on specs. They won on integration of the system, integration across your devices. And now they are so winning. Several years ago, they said, okay, we're going to start pushing our services more. We're going to start doing more subscription stuff. And they have now built that business. They had a pretty modest goal of getting it to like 50 billion a year, something like that. They're now at like 110 billion a year in revenue. If you just take that unit, that services unit, which includes a lot of different stuff, but it's like Apple TV and iCloud and warranties, the Apple Care thing and other stuff. You throw that in, 110 billion is bigger than anything in Hollywood. In terms of revenue, it's a little insane. And it's kind of working for them. And this is only going to help.
It seems like in the natural order of things, the precedent, CEOs that have been in charge of large global technology conglomerates last a certain length of time, and it seems like Tim Cook has served that length of time. You don't see, the Sony Walkman ebbed after a while, as dominant as that was for a while. Sort of dominant consumer electronics products, you don't see them lasting in a dominant part of our consumer lives for 2 decades and going strong. I maybe there's an example I don't know.
Well, you say that. And I just happened to look. GE was the dominant power in the 2000s. Jack Welch was the chainsaw Jack, was buying and sawing down companies and doing all that stuff. And he left, and GE fell apart pretty quickly under his successors because it turns out some of what he was doing wasn't really as sustainable as the Wall Street fans thought, and Jack sort of fell out of favor. But then they split the company up into 3, and all 3 of those companies, like Vernova, I only wish I'd bought this a long time ago. I had literally a share and a half of it. It's now worth $1,000. It's insane.
Wait, you own stock in the companies you cover?
I don't cover GE Vernova, but GE Vernova has been very nice to me over the last 3 or 4 years since it spun out of GE. Long after it got rid of NBC Universal and all that stuff. So it's really interesting to see that even a company that was big back in the day, IBM, kind of back, sort of back, in this whole AI era. These things don't go away. Cisco, the darling of the first internet era, has had a bit of a renaissance and is a pretty solid company again in the whole AI race, because it connects things at high speeds. So, or as I said to Vivian, our beloved producer, it connects things.
Applies for, as verticals and short form content makes internet video consumption over mobile popular again. For a while, it seemed like it wasn't as much of a thing. Apple being the dominant platform has relevance. So thought I'd bring
it up. Well, absolutely. It's a good experience, and now you can shoot it in 4K. You can cut it on Adobe Premiere or CapCut or a whole bunch of other tools and put something up and throw it onto all your different outlets and share it. And become a famous video star like you and me, right?
Yeah.
But I do find it interesting because this narrative on Wall Street was Apple was done. Apple is done. It's why would anybody have Apple stock? And turns out there might be reasons occasionally to have Apple stock. It's going up again now. It's far above what it was. They had a stock split, I don't know, 6 years ago now, something like that. But it's going back up. It's rising up again, and this is going into WWDC. It's almost like the Swallows returning to Capistrano. It's the investors returning to Cupertino. It's not quite as romantic. I mean, there's no mission-style architecture at one infinite loop, but they're coming back, baby. They haven't gone away. So, it is interesting.
Market Whisperer. Maybe you can answer this, and this is a change of subject here.
Okay.
So David Ellison confirms that 24% of our $24 billion of the money we're getting to buy Warner Brothers Discovery comes from Jared Kushner's friends, or
his Middle Eastern friends, three public investment funds or three sovereign wealth funds.
11%. Why does Wall Street prefer they get their money from the Middle East?
Well, because it feels a little bit less perilous than what's going on with Oracle. We say all that,
right? With
this little incursion, whatever our only president was trying to say when he was trying to say it's not a war. But that $24 billion is coming from three Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, Abu Dhabi's, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. There's also $1 billion coming from Larry's new friends. I think it's at ByteDance, which owns most of.
Market's looking at what Larry else is doing, investing in all this AI.
Well, not just investing in AI, but taking out a massive amount of debt to build out that stuff. And his leveraging on his main business is much higher than it has been, though he's always done a lot of that, kind of stuff.
He's competing with Amazon and Google and
Microsoft. What could go wrong? He's done okay over the years. He's done okay.
Yeah. It's not the same kind of animal, though.
No, it's not the game. But the real issue is Larry Ellison was the $40 billion backstop on the Paramount Warner Brothers deal.
They doubt him a little bit.
And they were like, okay, but you got a lot of debt over on your main gig, which is putting all the money into your pocket to put into your son's project.
Right.
And probably it'll work out. But if you're about risk, and when you're talking about billions of dollars, risk is heightened, shall we say. So that's why they were under scrutiny. Now, it's interesting that three not just sovereign wealth funds, but three major targets of Iranian missiles and drones are backing this stuff. But they're like, that's okay because they've got $1 trillion or $2 trillion in their sovereign wealth funds. They can rebuild their natural gas facilities or whatever, or pop a new pipeline across the Arabian Peninsula. No sweat. So we know they're good for it, basically. And we know they have ambitions to be in entertainment, which includes entertainment in the United States, even though they say they're not going to have any decision-making power. They're going to give up any voting power just by putting in nearly a quarter of the money that's being proffered up.
So they're impossibly. Larry Ellison, he's taken a major gamble on a enterprise software business that, if the global economy suddenly were to tank, who knows? At the same time, he's given his son not an inconsequential amount of money. And they're saying,
well, as allowances go for Junior, this beats the 10 cents a week I was getting from my parents when I was in first grade. I just have to say, here's $40 billion. Go buy a movie studio with a lot of debt.
Yeah.
Go with God. And here's a plane for you to fly also. So, because he does fly.
The Top Gun sequel, which was pretty good. So
but he also flies. He's a flyer. I mean, David's a licensed pilot.
You know who else was a licensed pilot?
Harrison Ford.
JFK Jr.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well. But you know what? The best news about that, the best news about that is it means there's an end to that freaking show. That means there's an end. That's a win, baby, for Western culture.
Don't let it end. In case anybody has missed it, on Hulu, there's Love Story.
No, everybody's missed it. Nobody's like pining for another endless rehash of a story we've been well familiar with forever.
Its audience over the full season.
To what? If you want to talk audiences, let's talk. Was its audience bigger than the viewership of the March Madness winners this weekend? Mad props, by the way, to Michigan and UCLA, your favorite school. Or not, winning the men's and women's, respectively, March Madness titles, to go with that Indiana crushing win in the football stuff. I haven't
seen the numbers. Are they out?
Some numbers I saw briefly. They were fast numbers for the women. Were very good. We're definitely seeing a big uptick. People like Lauren Betts from UCLA are going to be zooming into the WNBA in a couple of weeks and playing for the WNBA within 3 more weeks after that or so. I mean, it's going to be a real whirlwind. These young women coming out, the way the WNBA season is, it is barely 2 months after they have the end of March Madness. So if you're a star like Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, Paige Beckers, and you're going all the way to the final game,
tune in to watch college coaches at that level.
Yeah,
I'm surprised any of them ever try to transition to the NBA, because you can't talk to professional athletes the way these guys talk. Listen to Coach Hurley address his players as the game is slipping away. I can't believe how soft you guys are, and just let them have it. It's sort of like you're a millionaire based on your NIL money. You have to listen to this guy call you funny names. It's weird.
Only for a little while, I mean, it's not like you're signing up to get a gold watch and spend 40 years listening to this guy rant at you. I mean, it's tops 4 years, and usually it's going to be less than that. It seems like if you're any good, you're going to be just a little stuff. But the fact is, there are people like Billy Donovan who've gone back and forth, Fred Hoiberg, who's gone back and forth, Fred's at Nebraska, which had a great season this year. There are people that go back and forth, and they are probably the forward-looking types. The guy that coached Michigan, he took a team that was 8-26 2 years ago.
Oh boy!
Had all transfers as starters this year. He's this very chilled out, low key, highly prepared guy. Yeah.
Publication in the next 365 days, so you can get it all out. You're worse than me.
I'm just saying, that stuff's there. I did want to not lose track of another thing that Apple's doing. Apple put a lot of money into, apparently, I've been listening to this great podcast. It's about 5 hours looking at the history of Formula One
discussion.
History of Formula One, which is very colorful. But they talk about, one of the things they talk about, everybody says that Drive to Survive, the Netflix show, really made it happen for Formula One in the United States. I didn't realize, because they put some numbers on it. So they added something like 77 million new fans. The female to male ratio went from like 6% female to 40% female. They watch the races, but really they're watching all the other stuff around it. Formula One was inscrutable to Americans for decades. And Drive to Survive gave it personalities and, Real Housewives kind of flavor in terms of the corporate boardroom politics.
I think that, like the drivers, you didn't realize what kind of athletes they were. You didn't.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Team commitment and resources you need to succeed in that business.
These are now businesses. These racing teams are valued at over $1 billion. I think the Mercedes team is at $6 billion. It's valued at $6 billion. Now, there's some interplay between Mercedes, the car maker, and Mercedes, the race team. So Mercedes doing well in Formula One feeds into that. But these have become so big, and now they've got the Vegas race, they've got the Miami race, they've got the Austin race. Those are real American races that are big events. Now, right now, speaking of things that are not happening in the Middle East, 2 Formula One races, they're on hold. But Apple just took over after paying a deal that reportedly goes at $150 million a year for 5 years for the Formula One rights. They did the first 2 races in Australia and China. 2 were going to be in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Not happening right now for obvious reasons. You don't want to add like craters in the racetrack to the challenges of going at 200 miles an hour in a rocket on wheels. But I mean, that thing's pumping up, and they get 1.5 million, less than 1.5 million views when ESPN gave them up. But 150 million is a really interesting thing, because a few years ago, Formula One literally gave the rights for $0 to ESPN with a provision that you can have them for free. You just have to show all the races around the world. Can't hear you, Dan. You hit mute again. It wasn't me.
Oh,
I didn't do it.
No, we're talking about the U.S. market here, right? Europe.
The U.S. is the untapped, gigantic opportunity. They mentioned Atlassian,
So
which is
can you give me a sense of scale? How much? I mean, if these teams are worth the billions of dollars that you just described, the TV money in Europe must be exponentially higher.
Well, it's not just Europe. I mean, the European Broadcasting Union does broadcasting for all of that. Then pay TV came along and took it over. But it's not. It's important to remember, this is not just Europe. It is huge in Asia, huge in Latin America, big in Australia. Not a huge market, but big in Australia.
Its biggest market is what? Europe, though. So Asia.
Well, that's its roots. You know, Ferrari's been there every year since the start.
Scale. What kind of TV money are
well,
they getting?
Okay, so sponsorship. So name sponsorship. You know, to name the team might cost you $100 million a year. Having your company's name on the box, it's right behind the driver. They have this halo thing to help immobilize their neck so they don't snap their neck in an accident. That's like $7 million. To have your name on the driver's coveralls. They finally got fireproof coveralls like in the 90s.
That's what we should.
Like, maybe we should make it harder for them to burn. Let's just do that. That's $1.5 million
for you.
Coveralls. You want some coveralls for us? Only if we get a good sponsor. Otherwise, I'm not suiting up, buddy. If I get Mercedes Petronas to sponsor us, I'm in. I'll wear the Mercedes Petronas thing. I'm in. But the sponsorship dollars are crazy. The ad dollars are coming out of, again, and the other thing, these corporate sponsorships, Atlassian, they quoted a Stratechery, Ben, whatever his name is, Stratechery interview with the Atlassian CEO, talking about how, they're the name sponsor on one of the teams. And for them, they just go to each of the races around the world, and that's where they meet with their clients around the world, and they show, here's how Atlassian's used by our client / the team we're sponsoring to do this really cool thing. And you're going to hang out in the paddock for 3 days, interfacing with all your clients, whether it's in Shanghai or Melbourne, or maybe it's Sydney. I can't remember which. I think it was Melbourne. Or Monaco, or on and on and on. And you're bopping around to your clients around there. So all of a sudden it becomes the way that you connect, the same way that we'll see with the Masters this week in Augusta, Georgia. The Masters is a beautiful golf course with a really unfortunate history of excluding women and black people, but it's a beautiful course, and you got 4 days to hang out and schmooze with other golf geeks who happen to be clients.
Unfortunate histories. I'm going to steer the topic back to us and to streaming. And at this time last week, you had an interesting interview. You talked to Scott Olszewski, the co-founder and chief product officer of Plex.
I did.
Which operates a free streaming platform. And it was a good
interview. It does many things. It operates fast channels. It's got a TV OS. It's got it's a media management software for your giant hard drive sitting in your palatial estate, as I know you have.
Well,
Does a lot of things.
We didn't get this story out of Scott. It came courtesy of the Washington Post this week. I guess this happened 9 years ago.
2017.
The giant.
There's a reason why it didn't come up in our conversation. Is all I'm saying. It's not like I wasn't an assiduous journalist. This happened 9 years ago.
I know.
Anyway,
I didn't know about it either. None of us did. But this is a great story. I guess they had a Survivor type competition. They flew everybody out to Honduras, right?
Yeah,
and I guess on the first day, the CEO Keith Valery gets violently ill with E. coli, which is kind of dangerous. It's a food poisoning, the kind of Cadillac of food poisoning, I think.
Well, we all have E. coli in our systems. We just don't want it in some parts of our systems because it causes really, depending on the variant, there are thousands of kinds of E. coli bacteria. But you don't, and you can get it in waterborne, like drinking the local water. So they should have called Honduras Indurus because they were enduring a lot.
Yeah,
right.
Let's not. The State Department might have problems with us.
Well, they don't care. They just want to know if there's a good supermax prison down there they can export some people to.
Exactly. So he gets sick, and I guess our guest Scott takes over, but he's got like all these tech workers who aren't in the best shape. It's really hot, and things go not quite Fire Festival bad, but it's a good story. Everybody survived, everybody died.
Right.
It doesn't look like there were lawsuits, but it was.
Nobody died. There was no $50 million lawsuit, no jail terms for anybody, not even the Supermax in Honduras or Indurus, as we now call it. But it was quite something. I think Scott has finally gotten over the trauma. He seems very well adjusted when I talk to him. A fine fellow. I've talked to him in the past.
I tuned in for a second. I just think it's interesting that normally you take your staff out to like a golf retreat or someplace antiseptic in Scottsdale or something. But
I would love to see some of those golfers at the Masters doing this. That would be kind of hilarious. But that's just me. I do know the Formula One drivers could totally hack it because those guys.
You are determined to get to those.
No, I'm just saying. Like, you want to talk about endurance and Survivor and all that. It's like, I know some people can handle it, and I know some people that probably can't. So just guessing. They're both in the news this week.
I got a topic. You mentioned something that I thought was really interesting. Now, normally
it does happen once in a while, mostly by accident, though, I have to admit.
Well, in theatrical distribution, if you've got a blockbuster, holiday, summer, what have you, you try to find an empty spot on the calendar so that only one blockbuster is debuting that weekend. But later this year, and this surprises me because it's kind of post-pandemic, the calendar isn't as crowded as it used to be. We've got two major motion picture events, an Avengers movie and Dune 3.
Dune Part 3. Dune Part 3 is the official name because that's sexy. Dune Part 3, Avengers Part 948. I can't even keep track of how much avenging they've been doing. But this one's from the Russo brothers again, who made the two biggest Avengers movies, which each topped a couple of billion, I want to say. I mean, those brothers know how to make it. But they're both coming out the weekend before Christmas. And so it's going to be really an interesting, you want to talk about, the end times or, Infinity War or something. I mean, those are two very big things. Now, Dune by Denis Villeneuve is much, according to some analysis I've been provided by Synalytics, which does this stuff. They're consultants to most of the studios in town and look at box office and marketing and all that stuff. And they're saying, this is going to be Clash of the Titans. Another film that did okay a long time ago, probably shouldn't be remade. Don't get any ideas out there, you kids. But these two films stuffed in there is going to be, last year, Avatar kind of had room to run. And they did to $1.8 billion on Avatar 3, but it launched the weekend before Christmas. And this is going to be basically a whole week before Christmas. So they'll have a little more of time, but one's going to be more IMAX, and that's Dune, and like 20% of their revenue comes from their IMAX screens. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, whether one or the other, because the Avengers kind of, people were kind of done with Marvel for a while there. They were like, oh God, because Iger had this cadence of, new movie, new TV show.
Epic fights and they get destroyed. I mean,
yeah, right. Like, how many times can you have a universe about to end because of some guy with a bad attitude or whatever, or some Norse god with a trickster mindset? But there was definitely some Avengers fatigue as a result of the ramp up that they did with Marvel expressly on the eve of launching Disney Plus, where they started putting out more movies and TV shows that were themed in the Marvel world, as well as Star Wars. And they just basically kind of burned out folks who just couldn't follow every little corner of the Marvel mythology.
Like they get their own movie and then they surface another side characters and it feels like casual. It feels like you're watching a sitcom after a while.
But it becomes more like you're a Talmudic scholar, like excavating very obscure corners of the Marvel canon. And if you miss this show, you are therefore no longer the grand Ayatollah of Marvel or something. It is a little bit, that is very much a mixed religious metaphor, and I apologize to both faiths for that and anybody else who cares.
We can desecrate, like...
No, you desecrate. I don't need any...
Our president does it.
Yeah, but he's got Secret Service. My service is indeed a secret. But that being said, Marvel wore out its welcome. Now they have a little show that's kind of like an anti-Marvel show, but it's set on a guy who's a superhero but doesn't want anybody to know because he wants to act. Opposite Ben Kingsley, who's delightful, Mr. Marvel, I think, and that one's pretty amusing.
Other side, Dune 3, the culmination.
You got Dune 3 with Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya.
Chalamet is on his way. There's a little bit of they build him up, and now they're in teardown mode for his because he didn't say the right things about the opera.
There is no hell like the hell of spurned ballet and opera fans who were known for their love of Marvel and Dune. I mean, whatever. They're going to show up. It's going to be Denis Villeneuve directs stunning films, and they are works of art as well as true to their science fiction roots, the Frank Herbert's Dune series, which goes on, I hate to tell you folks, like 7 books. But he got through the first giant fat original Dune in 2 movies, so this is promising. Maybe he'll only do 9 more and we'll get tired of Dune soon, maybe. Or actually, Timothée Chalamet will be 900 years old by then.
Why 2 movie studios said, hey, let's compete with each other, but...
What they said was, we're not giving up on Christmas weekend or Christmas week. That's really the bottom line. So, but it does set up quite an interesting fight because those are 2 gigantic franchises. And they're even bigger than Formula One. And it'll be interesting to see who wins out. There's lots, Euphoria is coming to HBO, I believe, this week, with Zendaya getting lots and lots of attention. Chalamet was up for an Oscar for Marty Supreme just a month ago. And they were running Dune stuff for that. I'm not seeing a lot of Avengers stuff. I think I've seen some, but not.
It was tracking ahead.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, do you know what the percentage is right now?
I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it in a little bit, but
it's up, right?
It's so far out. It's so far out, but I mean, they're already advertising the Dune stuff heavily now because of Zendaya's thing in HBO, because of Chalamet and the Oscars and Marty Supreme.
I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Well,
movie studios, Go ahead.
They're gorgeous. Yeah, we're only going to have like 2 studios soon, so might as well. Anyway, with that, we ought to wrap things up. But it's something to look forward to at Christmas time. The fights between the different things should be really fun. This is David Bloom.
Fight at Christmas time. It's the best time of the year.
It's the best time of the year. Peace on earth. We could do some of that now.
Thank you to Media Play News for letting us do this. And let's get out of here.
Yeah, happy to partner with Media Play News on this midweek check-in with Daniel Frankel and me, David Bloom, co-founders of Next TMT and Next TMT Talks. Like, share, subscribe, comment, stay with us forever and ever, just like we're
Don't leave us.
Don't leave us ever. Anyway, thanks everybody.